The following tutorial is brought to you by WholeLoops.com.
It's production time. I'm Reid Stefan, realist puppet in the game. 5 ways to create your signature sound as a music producer. I think all music producers aspire to have their own sound because it is what makes you you. It is what makes the listener know that you made this song without them needing to look at the title to see who made it. It's your identity, and it's definitely not something that you can figure out with a tutorial or with a week's time or even a year's time. It takes releases and feedback and trial and error, and people spend their entire career refining their style. And what I'm going to talk about is 5 very good habits that you can get into to expedite this process. So we're going to start with 1, and this may seem a little bit obvious, but very neglected, and something that I didn't start using until recently was simply pulling channels out of your old songs. Ableton has a really great shortcut for that. If you add your entire Ableton Sessions collection, you can see all your projects. I just got a new laptop, so I don't have too much stuff on here. But you can go right into the ALS file and scroll through all the channels. And if you were diligent when you made the song in naming your channels and keeping it organized, this step of the process becomes very easy. Because if I'm looking for, what the fuck is that? Sorry, I think my roommate was opening a coconut. I'll wait. All right. So let's say I want to pull the effects out of this. That's I usually pull the effects from old songs because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And all you got to do is click and drag, hold it until the little rainbow wheel goes away, and then drop it. Because if you don't wait till the rainbow wheel goes away, it never works. I don't know why. But here's all your content. This is the audio, the plugins, the volume you left it at, everything's colored, named the way you like it. Huge time saver. And I'm all about saving time because when I'm in the creative zone, I do not want to be taken out of the creative zone by doing technical stuff or by going and digging through folders for, a very basic sound when I have a perfectly usable one right here in an old song. And that brings me to step 2, which would be saving your channel strips. If you did something really cool, save it. Use it again. That's your idea. There's no shame in pulling from your own ideas. And to save these, all you got to do is highlight them all, Command G for group, and hit save. Give it a nice name. And you can now recall this onto your other channels. Your plugins, the settings, everything just the way you left it. Again, huge time saver, and if it saves time, I'm all about it. Number 3, take the time to create a favorites folder of samples, of kick drums, snare drums, percussions, sweepy noises, uplifters, downlifters, whatever it is that you find yourself constantly looking for again and again in every song. Start making a favorites folder, because that favorites folder will be in all of your songs, and the listener won't pick up on, hey, that's the same uplifter in all your songs, but I feel like it will, on a subconscious level, kind of remind them, and it'll have the same aesthetic and the same texture, which is what I'm going for when I'm trying to create my own signature style. I want my new song to remind them of my old song without being exactly the same, also without being completely different.
Do you produce music and love making hot club bangers? Do you find yourself constantly searching for those crispy snares and percussions? Do you want your beats to make people turn up? Maybe it's time you stepped up your sample pack library. Here at Whole Loops, we've got the product for you. Introducing Raw Hits, our debut sample pack of organically grown drum one-shots, loops, FX, vocal samples, and all the production essentials you'll need to add some organic flavor to your secret sauce. Raw Hits is available now only at WholeLoops.com.
Number 3, and this one's easier said than done, but use less layers when you're making leads. I found this to be so important because I used to just keep layering sounds that didn't quite carry the lead on their own to try and make them into one super sound, and I realized over time that 3 mediocre leads do not add up to make one good lead. Sometimes they do. In most cases, they don't. In the style of music that I make, I find the most effective leads are the ones where I spend forever refining and automating one sound, one layer. That way you also don't have to figure out how to mix them and make them work well together. It's kind of just that one sound. Here it is. This is the lead. There's no question as to what you're supposed to listen to as the listener, and that's really only something that you achieve through being a bit minimalistic in your approach, in the way that you stack up your sounds in a song. So I'm a huge fan of simply using less layers. A lot of times when I go to finish a song, a lot of what I'm doing is deleting. When I am coming up with ideas and I'm in that creative zone, I oftentimes come up with too many ideas or too many layers. And when I go back and I listen to the song, I don't feel like any one idea is jumping out and grabbing my attention. So by stripping away anything that does not absolutely need to be in the song, you are then shining light on the best of all of your ideas, and what you're left with is a lean, trim song. There's no extra fat on there. There's nothing that you don't need. It's just, here's the idea, and there's nothing else to distract you from it. And I think that ends up being the most effective to the listener. And finally, find your tempo. And this does not mean that every single song has to be the same tempo. I cover a wide variety of tempos, but what I mean by find your tempo is don't feel like you are restricted to the common numbers. Just because everyone's track is 128 or 150 or 100 or whatever it may be, does not mean that that tempo is the best tempo for that musical idea. Sometimes making it slightly faster or slightly slower makes a huge impact on the song, and I always prioritize that over making it easy for DJs to play it without having to touch the pitch bend thing on the CDJ. So by finding your tempo, that really means kind of break out of those restrictions that you set up for yourself if you're a dance music producer, and kind of following the tempo norms, because that really does not help make your track better in every case. I kind of just close my eyes and hit the up-down button on the tempo control until I really feel like it's perfect. I don't worry about the number. I worry about what feels right. So those are the 5 tips that I wanted to share with you guys. I think you'll find that this really helps, 1, with your workflow, but 2, with the consistency and the quality of your work. And as a music producer, being consistent and consistent with quality are what are going to keep the listeners there, and keep the people loving your work, and keep them, feeling like you are still you. So get creative. Don't do what everybody else is doing. And work on your own collection of presets and samples and all this stuff, because that is what will eventually make you you. Being a music producer is not all technical, and not all of my tutorials going forward are going to be technical, because I think stuff like this is equally, if not more important than the technical stuff. I know a lot of people think that, to be a good music producer, you got to get really good at mixing, or you got to get really good at mastering, or you got to get, really good at serum, or whatever it is. But I think you just have to get really good at being creative and being simple. And I think if you can focus on that, you'll have a really easy time finding yourself. So until next Tutorial Tuesday, thank you for watching. If you like this video, leave a comment telling me why. If you'd like me to talk about any particular subject, leave a comment telling me why, and I'll be happy to do so. Thank you guys. Stay tuned. I'll see you next week.